Hi, it's Mark from Top Local Lead Generation. We're here with Bernie Pawlik. Pawlik Automotive, Vancouver's best automotive experience. How are you doing today, Bernie?
I'm doing very well, Mark. How are you?
Good. So, air conditioning repairs. Hard to think of right now, given that we're in the middle of, fall in the summer of 2016 here in Vancouver. It's been rainy. But I guess you had a 2006 Grand Prix that had some ongoing air conditioner problems.
It has, and it's a good example of how air conditioning systems can be a little complex to fix over time. Yeah, so basically, so what was happening with this car is a few months, actually, I think over the last few years, the owner had experienced some problems with the air conditioning, and a few months ago, he said, let's get this fixed up. So we did a diagnosis on it, found the compressor had a pretty substantial leak, and looked around the rest of the system, couldn't find any other leaks at the time, so we replaced the compressor, and we also replaced the accumulator at the same time, which is kind of like a filter, a receiver dryer filter. Replaced that unit at the same time, filled the system, was working great. He went out of town for about a month or more, came back, and it wasn't blowing as cold as he had wanted it to.
So how did you find the first leak?
Well, the first leak we found initially with a refrigerant detector, so that we have multiple methods of finding refrigerant leaks. They can be very tricky. Sometimes they can be kind of small, sometimes they can be large. Large ones are always better to find. But with this particular refrigerant leak, the original one we found with an electronic refrigerant detector. Second time around, we looked at the vehicle and we found that it was in fact low on refrigerant again, not empty, but low. So we did some tests. Now, when we did the first repair, we added UV dye to the system. It's an ultraviolet dye, and when the vehicle, when a leak occurs, it mixes with the oil and it comes out, and you can see like a green glow. So I'll just share a photo, screen share a photo here with you, if I can get this to work. There we go. This is a picture of the condenser. So this was what we found was faulty the second time. This is the condenser. It's like a radiator that sits in front of the engine. And if you notice on the bottom left corner of the picture, you can see a very greeny kind of glow. You can see there's like an oily coating on that side of the condenser. If you look on the right side of the picture, you see it's just sort of blackish type of fins. But when you look towards the left, you can see a sort of oilier film on it. And then the bottom left corner, you can see a green dye, which is absolutely 100% conclusive evidence of a leak from the condenser. So the leak UV dye is one of our favorite ways to find leaks because it's extremely conclusive. But many times a leak is so small we can't find it.
So what was involved in replacing this condenser?
Well, the condenser, it's located at the front of the vehicle. It's always in front of the radiator, so it's usually a fairly labor-intensive job in this car, and it was. In this vehicle, you have to remove the radiator, and then drain the cooling system, remove the radiator, and then you can take the condenser out. Some are not so difficult, and others are even worse, but that's basically what's involved. And of course, we have to evacuate whatever refrigerant is in the system first, then remove the condenser, replace it, and then do another service on the AC system. So we deep vacuum it and then refill it again.
So you mentioned that you repaired this vehicle's AC system a couple months before. Did you charge for each diagnosis?
No, we don't. What we do, because of the way air conditioning systems work, and we can never be 100% sure we fixed it, what we do at our shop is we have a 1-year basically diagnostic warranty on air conditioning diagnosis. So if we look at the vehicle and we determine it's this particular problem, we'll do the repair if the customer wants to, see how it works. Now, if it works fine, great. But if something else were to happen, then we'll just continue diagnosing it for, within the year for no extra charge. And in this case too, we also evacuated and recharged the system for no extra charge as well. It doesn't make sense to be paying for things over and over. But often you just cannot see the other leaks and things until again the system is repaired and it gets up to pressure and starts working.
So it's almost like it causes cascades. One, you got a big problem in one area, and that seems to be the only issue. But once you fix that, then all their little problems start to show up. Is that kind of what's going on in this case?
Exactly. The thing is, this system hadn't worked in a few years, so it may have developed a leak in this condenser that was not noticeable until the system was actually functional and the pressures were back. Air conditioning is really interesting because it involves, it has I don't even know what to call it, I guess a chemical, like a liquid, but the refrigerant, the R134, is basically, it changes state from a high pressure gas to a high pressure liquid to a low pressure gas to a low pressure liquid, and the temperatures fluctuate throughout the whole system, so it's under a major amount of stress. Plus it sits under the hood of a car where it's, at least, it's extremely hot. So it's amazing how well they work and how reliable they are, but there's a lot that can go wrong with them.
So air conditioning can be pretty expensive to fix?
It can be. I never like to use the word expensive. I was thinking about that word because it's always a judgment or a perception in people's minds. But yeah, generally it's not the cheapest thing to repair. Sometimes you may get away with a couple of $100 repair if it's a simple electrical item. But often, like a job like this particular vehicle is probably, I'm thinking, is probably $1,500 to $2,000, but it's, with the 2 repairs, so it's a fair amount of cost. I usually find there's sort of 2 camps of people with car air conditioning. There's the people who want it and are willing to spend the money to fix it, and then there's people who just don't care and don't spend it. So
yeah, it's not that big a deal for us here.
Well, exactly. It's not exactly. Vancouver doesn't stay hot all that long. Although, we had like a summer in March, April, and May. It's kind of different, But again, you can always roll the windows down. But we seem to get used to air conditioning in cars. One time, air conditioning was a luxury option, and now it's. I find it rare, very rare, to find a new car that doesn't have air conditioning. It's just like every car has it. It's pretty old standard equipment. Even more popular than power windows now.
So if you're in Vancouver and you love your air conditioning, it's not working right, the guys to see are Pawlik Automotive. You can call them to book your appointment, 604-327-7112, or check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark.